Hi there. Welcome to another edition of The Other Tom Green Show. Of course, this has been a difficult week. We've talked about the passing of the great Doug Moe. And we're going to get a chance to talk about Doug Moe with a guy who knew him pretty well. Our old friend Rick Reilly is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. But with Rick on and with the passing of Doug, it made me think about the relationship that different players and coaches have had with media members over the years. Now, Doug was the best at it because he just wanted to sit in the coffee shop when he was on the road and not just have coffee. He wanted to sit in the coffee shop all day. So if you're on the road with the Nuggets and you stop by the coffee shop, you got to sit and talk with Doug. He probably didn't want to talk about basketball with you, but he wanted to talk about everything else. Doug was legendarily easy to work with as a member of the media. And then there are other people, Sean Payton has a prickly relationship with the media. We know many coaches. We watched Mick Cronin this week kind of melt down with the UCLA head coach, just going after a reporter because he felt like it. And then there are a couple of guys I remember. Chan Gailey, football coach, was an assistant here with Denver, later became the head coach of the Cowboys. But while he was here, one day he asked me, he said, "Can I come down and watch you work?" And I don't think I'd ever had anybody really ask me that, an active NFL coach or an assistant coach. And so I said, sure. And what it was Chan was curious. And I started to think about how important curiosity is. Curiosity is a gift that many people have and some people don't, but it can be incredibly valuable. Enjoyed the day with Chan. He had a lot of questions about how TV stations worked and how we go about putting what we put on the air. And I thought it was very interesting that he even asked, but it said a lot about the varieties of relationships that you can have between media members and coaches and players. We're going to get a chance to talk about all that with one of America's favorite sports writers. Our friend Rick Reilly joins us today here on The Other Tom Green Show. All right, here he is, my old friend Rick Reilly, who keeps telling us he's retiring from sports writing, but then you can't give it up, can you?
No, I'm addicted. I'm addicted to just having fun because there are not many jobs as good as this. There's no heavy lifting. So I like it.
So when you talk about your jobs, this was an interesting week for you because of your many books you've written. One of them was the great book, Who's Your Caddy, where you caddied for people from John Daly to Donald Trump and everyone in between. And this weekend, you were out at Pebble Beach caddying again. This is part of a new book?
Yeah, it's called Who's Your Caddy? The Mulligan. And my book publisher has always wanted me to do a sequel. And so here, 20 years later, I'm doing the sequel. But now I'm 68 and I forgot how hard it is. I mean, you're caddying at Spyglass, you're going up and down the hills, and where's my 7-iron? And you forgot to clean the ball, and oh, you didn't put the divot back. Wait a minute, I'm still haven't answered. I still haven't got that question answered. And then you're making notes, and I must have dropped, I don't know, the towel 12 times, putter cover 20. I was just a mess. And the guy I caddy for was Ryan Smith, who owns the Utah Jazz and the Utah Mammoth. And I said, you cannot tip me at the beginning. That's the great thing about you. You can take me and I can't get a tip. And at the end, he goes, you really didn't deserve a tip. I said, hey, I cost you maybe 2 shots aside. He goes, 3.
He's a scratch golfer. He's probably pretty easy to caddy for.
He was really good. What a great swing. In fact, he even thought about making a go at, the mini tour, see how he would do. But then he met a guy that was not making it on the mini tours and was beating him by 4 shots. So
yeah. So how was it out there? Who were you with? Who else did you get to play with or caddy with?
A lot of billionaires. Pebble Beach got rid of all the celebrity thing. Bill Murray, Jason Bateman, who, by the way, I caddied for this book. And now they do billionaires. Although Pau Gasol was out there, Ron DeSantis, people, a few celebrities. But the tour guys were the most fun. I mean, Tony Finau was out with us 2 days. He's a buddy of Ryan Smith. In fact, Ryan Smith has 2 houses on 18 at Pebble. 2 houses. Like, who needs 2 houses? And I think they're each 50 million each. But a bunch of the players were staying in the houses. So Fino, Ashkik Batia, however you
Right.
pronounce that guy's name, a bunch of players. Steve Young was in that house. So it was really good, as we say in the business, good trolling. There was tons of good stories.
So the original book I mentioned, Trump, and you had Jack Nicklaus, you had David Duval. It was a great read and an interesting ride. So you're doing it again. Have you found the book to be that different? The game's different, or the players are different, or what's changed?
Well, for one thing, I caddied at an all nude golf course. Everyone's naked. I was naked. The caddies have to be naked. You can't even wear shoes. It
Where's
was in
that?
France.
Oh,
And so that was different because when you're a naked caddy, what do you do with the pencil? Where does the extra ball go? There was a lot of problems, man. And the other thing is, it was a lot of old French people teeing
right.
the ball up, and you're behind them. That stuff, Tom, you can't unsee.
No, but and there's the sunscreen distributor there must do a great job.
Yeah. And oh my God. And then the bar, they're naked, and the guy's coming up to you, and you're sitting. Okay, all right, just bring me a beer. It's
Is
so
this
that was
book
a
gonna have
wild
pictures?
chapter. Caddy for Lee Trevino down in
Wow.
Dallas, and he was hilarious. He still can hit it really good. I remember we went back to his mansion. Oh, he's got a huge house in Dallas, right? Because he's done great.
Sure.
And I looked at this giant lawn. I said, "Who has to mow that?" And he goes, "I'd like to mow it." Like, "You like to mow it?" He said, "Yeah, I got a riding mower." And then he told this story about he's out there one day mowing the lawn because he liked to do it and listening to music. And this rich white lady pulled up in a Cadillac, rolled down the window. Hey, son, how much do you get for mowing a lawn? And Trevino's like, "What? How much do you get for mowing a lawn?" And he goes, "Oh, this lady lets me sleep with her."
Well,
I
when are we
caddied
gonna
for
see
the
the book?
worst golfer in America. I asked the USGA to find me the guy with the highest handicap who plays at least once a week. They found me a guy in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, who plays twice a week, and his handicap is 58.
58.
So
Didn't know it went that high.
58. So, I mean, what's your handicap? You're probably like a 9 or something.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So you would have to give this guy 50. You'd have to give him 49 shots. And I mean, Scotty Scheffler would have to give him he's a +9. So you have to give him 68. Anyway, so I caddied for him, and he was just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Played strictly by the rules. He would not pick up a putt, unlike Trump. Trump's gimme zone is the size of a Winnebago. This guy, it could be right here, putting for 12. I'm
Gotta
like,
hold it.
"Luther," this guy's name was Luther. "I'll give you that." "Oh, no, sir, no." And he put it out. And he'd go back to his little cart and write all his statistics in the cart. First day from the senior tees, he shot 131. Next day, I took him to a harder course from the blues, and he shot 178.
Oh
And
man.
honestly, caddying for a guy, you want to shoot yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because,
it's hard to play with, and you also have to he
oh,
or somebody has to do the math. I mean, sometimes it's hard, you
oh,
lose
yeah,
track
he's doing the
on a hole
math.
where you make 8.
He made 3 straight 13s one day. 3 straight 13s. I'm like, "Was there anything in your little book about lessons?" He goes, "Oh, yes. One time my friends bought me a package of 10 lessons." And I said, "What happened?" He goes, I got worse."
Worse. Is worse available? I didn't know you could get I didn't know
I've
that
never
was
heard of a handicap that high, but he never fails to put in his score. Unlike Trump, who I caddied for. And if you've ever gone to his gin deal in Florida,
right,
Donald Trump, Florida, you can look at it. The 20 scores that he keeps to make his 3 handicap
right.
have go back 20 years.
Yeah.
And like he'll be like, "Oh, I shot 73 at Wingfoot from the blues." And he monkeys with the slope, the slope when you put in your score. He just makes up like slope 160 and par 74. He messes with the numbers, so the number goes down, down, down. Meanwhile, if you were keeping track of his score, which I do and did when I played with him, yeah, he's lucky to break 90. He's an 88, 85 kind of guy. And I'm like, "There's no way you're a 3. I'll play you for my house because I'm a 6." Oh, no, no. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take some mulligans. I mean, those are allowed. And sometimes, something happens, the wind comes up, I can take that. And then I realized his caddy had these 4-inch green tees, the four
Right.
caddy, and he was teeing it up in the rough. They were
Really?
teeing it up in the
Not
rough.
legal.
They were throwing it out of bunkers because he's a terrible chipper. In fact, one day he took a gimme chip in. I never seen this. We were playing a metal bet for score. I knock it in close for par. He's laying off the green in par. And he goes, that makes this good. And he picked up a chip. Like, did you just take a gimme chip in? He
Well,
goes, oh,
it's
I
funny
make
'cause
those all the time. I'm
so
like,
many
no,
people
you
want their
chip like
handy.
Edward Scissorhands. You have a short game like Stevie Wonder. You're terrible. And by then he's gone in his cart, which he's rigged up to go 50, and you just can't keep up.
Doesn't everyone rig their handicap to be too high so they win the bets? But unless you're
Yeah,
if
that's
it's
called a
tied.
sandbagger. What he
Yeah.
is he's got a cocktail handicap. He can tell people he's the 3. He's actually a 13. But when you own the course, you get to win all the tournaments. So now he's up to like 40 club championships. And I'm like, this is so bullshit. Because he told me how he does it. He said whenever he buys a new course, he plays the first club championship with him and Melania. And he goes, Melania's not going to get that good. So I'm always going to win that. And that's how I won 14.
So he was in the first book. The first book now, how old is that?
Right.
25 years, maybe?
Yeah,
Something like.
25 years now.
So when's this one going to come out? When's the Mulligan coming
You
out?
know, I keep getting delayed by Steph Curry, and Charles Barkley. So we pushed it back to Father's Day next year, 27.
So they're going to be in it as well?
I think they're going to be in it as well. It was a lot of really fascinating jobs. I caddied at the National Amputee Championships,
Oh, wow.
and every guy in there and every woman is missing, a hand. They're missing a limb.
Yeah.
But they're pretty good and they're having fun. And you sort of forget who they are. And I
Yeah.
remember on the 13th hole, my one of these guys hits a good shot, but it's not going to get there. And I go, get legs, get legs. And the guy turns to me, says, read the room, man. Read the room. Oh, it was
Hey,
great.
as you've written many books, but you really did leave sports writing on, you were so famous from everything. I knew you when you were still at the Boulder Camera before
Right.
your path took you to Sports Illustrated's back page and beyond. But you have generally, because I see you pop up in the Washington Post, or what used to be the Washington Post.
Right.
Uh, but are you really done sports writing, like columns for anyone, or will you write when you find
Well,
something
the
you got to
Washington
write?
Post lets me write humor pieces on any subject.
Okay.
And I'm writing, I wrote one movie that was made called Leatherheads. I got a TV
Yep.
thing, I think, coming out with the guys who made Ted Lasso. So I'm kind of writing sports, but I'm mostly just doing whatever the hell I want. We bought we're living in Italy a lot. We live in Sedona, Arizona, live here at the beach in LA, play the piano, see the world.
Tough life.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just that it was just this one corner of life. You ever feel that way, Tom? That
Yeah.
sports is just this tiny little corner, and the people in it. Like I remember seeing Pete Rose at an airport once. He goes, "Where are you going?" I'm going to Italy. He goes, "Oh, I never go to Europe. I'll never go to Europe." Like, why? It's fantastic. He goes, "They don't play baseball."
Yeah. Yeah, how can you
Okay,
have a
maybe it's
country?
time to expand your little tiny world.
Well, I was thinking of all the places you've worked, because you're a big piece of uh you grew up in Boulder, worked at the Camera, the Post, you go to LA Times, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, the magazine, etc., and the Washington Post. And I look at it now, and every place you went is dead. You killed all of these once proud establishments. You've run through them top to bottom.
Well, I'm buddies with this guy Ted McGinley. He's an actor,
Sure, sure.
and uh, every and we kid him that about. He got to Happy Days, show died the next year. Got to Love Boat, show died the next year. Got to Married with Children, show died the next year. So I just did a speaking gig near his house, and he goes, "Can I come?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't want to take the chance, Ted. I don't want to take the chance."
So he's like, you're like a coach killer. We used to
I
remember
am.
those
I'm
guys.
the actual shark. You jumped
Yeah,
the shark. Well, to
you
be
are the star.
fair, it was kind of like the Sports Illustrated coverage. We would put like Michael Jordan on the cover. I think he's the record 59 times or something.
Sure.
And then something bad would happen to him. They're like, cover, Jakes. Well, which cover killed him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Muhammad
You got
Ali
plenty
or
to
somebody
choose
go to
from.
jail. Well, it's not our fault. So it's not my fault that 15 years after I left SI, it became like a pamphlet. ESPN, I was on ESPN TV for 10 years. It still seems to be doing okay.
Well, yeah, maybe they got lucky. There's outliers in for everything.
Right.
So so tell me about this because when I got here, I moved here in '82, and you were already establishing yourself as a great sports writer. But you were with the Boulder Camera, your hometown paper. Did you grow up wanting to be a sports writer? Was that the single career choice that young Rick Reilly wanted to take?
Absolutely. In fact, one of our buddies from Boulder High School died recently, and Seth Pollock, he died in a bike wreck there by Pebble
Oh,
Beach.
no.
But anyway, so we've been kind of reminiscing, and one of these guys reminded me in seventh grade, I got a Sports Illustrated writer named Bob Autumn. I wrote him and asked for permission to produce on stage for the high school play something he'd written, or the junior high school play. And I got a letter back, and I was so thrilled. And so I said, my goal in life, sir, is to be a writer at Sports Illustrated. And I remember writing that, and my buddy says, and you actually ended up doing it.
Wow.
So that's pretty. I remember I won a writing contest in first grade at Sacred Heart of Jesus, a national writing contest. I thought I had. And they put it up in the bank window. We used to walk home through the Boulder Mall back to our house from Sacred Heart. And it was on the window. I was so proud of that in first grade. And years later, I'm telling that story at a speech, and my brother was there, and he goes, you know, Dad worked at that bank, right? There was no big honor of being in the goddamn bank window. Like, oh, good point.
Thanks. You didn't have to mention that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. But you
So,
know,
go
sorry,
ahead.
but Boulder, I was at the Boulder Camera when I was still in college, you know, writing. And one of my first gigs was the Denver Nuggets and Doug Moe.
Yeah.
And Doug Moe was like, I couldn't believe, is this how sports is going to be? Because remember that office? He'd sit there and he'd put his feet up. I
Yep.
think he would drink a beer, but I can't remember.
Right after each game, there'd be one Coors Light. He'd
Yes.
be in Chopper's desk, more or less.
Yes.
Just
And
deal with all
Chopper
of it.
sitting there. And you remember Chopper wore the same
Chopper.
pants and same shirt every single day. And I'm like, Chopper, how do you get those clean? It was just a terrible pair of checked pants. How do you clean those every day in time for the? Oh no, I have 10 pair of these pants and 20
Yeah.
pair. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah,
So
he
anyway,
always-
Mo was always yelling at Chopper. It was so funny. He'd have his
I-
feet up, drinking his beer, and you could just sit in the chair. And he
Oh.
didn't hide anything. Nothing was off the record.
No.
He's like, that guy's a stiff. Oh, we got to. Who wants to? Like, I think someone said, well, how come you don't call any plays? Plays? Plays are for stiffs. We don't need plays. We run the ball. I don't ever want to see anybody dribble it. And it was so fun to cover. I covered the incredible 186, 184 game,
With the
triple
Pistons.
overtime. I think Freeman had something like, I don't know, 60 points. David Thompson had 70 or something. Oh, it was just such a freewheeling time. And Doug Moe always looked like he had the flu. He always looked terrible. I'm like, he didn't care. That's what I loved about him. He did not have a single drop of ego. He just wanted to have fun. His hair would be crazy. His shirt would be misbuttoned. His shoes would be untied. And I just thought, oh my God, this is the best beat I'll ever have.
But so you covered the Nuggets. When you went to up the road to Denver, you were brought in to do football, though. Football was still king, and the Broncos were the beat. And you went over and did that for a while in the Dan Reeves, John Elway era.
Yeah, and Dan Reeves is about as opposite of Doug Moe as you
Exactly.
can get.
Exactly.
He'd call me in the morning just yelling at me. I mean, it was just Edgar Kaiser calling you. It was just so miserable. It was just a terrible beat. And I mean, TJ Simers, you remember him for the Rocky
Yes.
Mountain News? And I
Yep.
remember I could never beat that guy at camp. I could never get
He
a
was-
story that would beat him. And
Yeah.
years later, he said, you know why you never could beat me? You could only tie me for, scoops and stuff. I'm like, why? He said, I would wait till you checked into the dorm in Greeley. I'd get the room above you and listen through the vent. That's what kind of guy TJ was. I'm like,
Well-
this is not, I'm not meant for this life.
So you end up in LA, but I always think people think of you as the back page of Sports Illustrated, and it's, we'll talk about media in a little bit, but it was the back page of Sports Illustrated. People before the internet came around would wait for that thing to hit their door, and
Right,
you became the first thing a lot of people would read. They would look at the cover and read Rick in the back, and it was just an exalted place. But I
right,
know you felt pressure when you got it, but you really seemed to embrace it and obviously connected with so many people there.
right. Well, people. A couple reasons that was the thing. They'd look at the cover, then they'd go to my thing because it was very short. It was always 800 to 825 words, which is a weird thing to say now when guys can just blather on for 5,000 words online. But it was very difficult to be short and interesting.
Yeah.
And, the thing was the guy, when he gave me the column, said, it can't be anything else we're writing about in the magazine, mostly. And it's got to be something new to the country because we don't come out till Thursday. So it's going to be hard. So it was hard to surprise people or make people laugh or get people mad or make people cry. And so, each week started like Monday morning, me and my editor, and I'd have 20 ideas. And we would pay, that sucks. That's really good, really good. Try that one. This has been done. That's been done. You're not good enough for that one. And we'd get it down to 5 by Wednesday. And then, like, well, God, I really feel this one. And he'd say, go for it, right? And then you'd write it. And then something would happen about to the guy you were writing about that changed the whole thing. So you have to go back. So it was much harder. Like people say, you got the easiest job. You write 800 words a week. Like you don't see the 10,000 I throw out every week.
I think of it, and we talk so much these days about how many people in the administration, do these press conferences or appear before Congress, and they perform for the audience of one, the aforementioned Donald Trump. When you did the back page and when you did the subsequent work at other places, I get the feeling because of the reverence you held Jim Murray and the great sports
Right.
writer for the columnist for the LA Times. Was he your audience of one you often felt you were writing for?
You know, the great singer Al Green said for his first 5 years of his career, he tried to sing like Nat King Cole. And for my first 4 or 5 years, the Camera, Post, maybe the first year at the LA Times, my hero was Jim Murray. And I realized I was trying to write like him. And once I realized I had my own style, my own voice, then he just became someone that inspired me, but I didn't copy him anymore. And that's when I really started to roll. And you feel like, this is me, I can do it. I would worry so much that I wasn't good enough. I got ulcers. And finally, through therapy, I just decided I'm good enough. And if it's not good enough, I'll do something else. And that's when it really started to work. But yes, Jim Murray, I think he was the greatest sports writer that ever lived. And also, he was really humble. Like he would come up to just perfect, the third string beat guy for the Rams in Bakersfield would come up and Murray would give him 10 minutes. And after he wrote his column, he'd push himself away and he'd always say the same thing, which is, fooled him again. And we'd go drink. And he was just a legend.
You and I are about the same age. I used to like to travel with sports a lot because it allowed you to go to Pittsburgh and pick up their newspaper and go to their stores and restaurants, and it
Oh
was
man, that
different,
was
and
the day, huh?
everything's more homogenized now, and you can connect with anyone, but you didn't really get to read Jim Murray as a young man, so were there writers in
Well,
Denver that you did or columnists that you did like here or national ones that you emulated or at least imagined you could be like?
Well, the thing is, when I got to the camera at such a young age, I would read the wires, and there was Jim
Yeah,
Murray, and there was Edwin Pope and Blackie Sherrod,
yeah.
and when it would get Dan Jenkins and SI and Frank DeFord, and so yeah, I mean, obviously, I loved Woody as a young guy. I loved Dick Connor, but there wasn't a lot of great sports writing for a while there in Denver. It was very, very four ply SWAT and the great Bambino and all that. And then when Buddy Martin and Tom Patterson came in and started hiring guys from around the country and younger people, it really got much better. But but can you imagine that, Tom, going to a town, picking up the newspaper and reading it's the guy in Cleveland or the guy in Houston. Like, I don't get to see this guy much. Now everybody's got the phone, and
Yeah.
it's a million people with a million opinions, and they all think they're really good writers. But it's very hard now to make money at it. And so
Yeah.
therefore it's really hard to craft your stuff. Like I try to help young writers, but they're like, man, I got 20 minutes to write my lead. Then I got to go do my podcast. I got to
Yeah.
tweet the whole game. I got to Insta. Then I got to do something on my YouTube channel. And you just had so much more time. I mean, they give you at SI before I became the columnist on the back, they give you 2 months to
Yeah.
go. I mean, I spent 2 months hanging around John Daly and really, got details about him. Like he would punch his reflection in the mirror. So his hands were full of glass shards.
Hey.
And sometimes he'd have to pull out of tournaments because they'd become infected. I mean, it
But
was just, you would always try to get in sports writing in those days, the coin of the realm was nuggets, great, interesting information. And that really is what made a piece good, even if it's 800 words. And now I don't think they really have the time to get that stuff.
it's funny because I want to talk to you about where we are and where we're going with media, but talking about Sports Illustrated, the other weekly that you'd get would be the sporting news. And in
Right,
there, you could read what Joe Falls was saying in Detroit, or Bob Brogue,
right.
or Art Spander, or these guys from all around the country. And, it was just a way to feel outside of your own zip code what's going on in the world.
Right.
And from guys who
But
are good at it.
but there was just so many bad Joe Falls. I remember one time he would do a notes column like every other
Yeah.
day. One time his lead was try iced coffee for a taste treat. Like, that's what you got?
You got to fill it. You got to fill it. Dick Young was another
Oh,
caustic
Dick
guy.
Young was really good though.
He
Jimmy
liked to pick it
Cannon
up.
and
Yeah.
Mike Lupica. I mean, he still writes like an angel. I don't know
Yeah.
how some of these guys. I mean, Jim Murray died at 77. I can't imagine staying in that little corner of the world till I'm 77, but he was happy.
It's just a different time now. But let's talk about media now, because you alluded to it with, I think, the demand on, like, I left Nine News about a year ago, and what they ask reporters to do now is do the story and then do 4 versions of it
And
immediately.
run your own, right? You run your own video and sound, right?
Yeah, so it's getting, far more complicated. But then again, you also now have every citizen with a phone is to some extent a journalist. So it's yeah, I would say it's not better, but I don't know if it's not better. It's just completely different than it
I
used to be.
remember being on a plane and I had just broken the story that Michael Jordan was going to the Washington Wizards. He was going to make $1 million, all he wanted. And he would start training in a month. Well, Jordan and Donald Dell all said I was high. Well, was I smoking? Which I didn't think was relevant to the question. But anyway, so I'm getting creamed. Some guy comes up to me on the plane. So you think Jordan's going to the Wizards? I'm like, yeah, I know he's going to the Wizards. No, he's not going to the Wizards. He's going to this, and then he's going to become general man. And I'm like, sir, what do you do for a living? He goes, I'm a dentist. I mean, I talked to 100 people for this story, and you're a dentist. But that's what was happening because of the internet. Everybody
Yeah.
thought they were an expert.
Well,
It's like once a week in my mail, I get, hey, I've written a book. Will you blurb it? Will you read it? Help me with it, whatever. And then I'm like, sorry, I can't. I'm writing my own books. And then a month later, they go, I published it. You published a book in a month?
yeah,
Well, I mean, it's online. It's self-published. Okay, well, you're not quite a published author, but thank you.
I am an author. Thank you very much. Um, so what do you think happens here? Because when we watched the Washington Post sports department get sacked a few weeks ago,
Ah,
I think it's the most crisp, sharp example of what we've been seeing happen for years now. But it happened in a sudden, sad moment. That I mean, I know you have a bunch of friends who worked or work there now.
oh my God, it was such a great section. Thomas Boswell, Sally Jenkins. I mean, there was all their beat work was so good. Byers on horse racing, and now they have no sports section. I mean,
Yeah.
people love the sports section, right? I mean, that's where it's not everything is, war and cancer. It's fun. And now that's gone. New York Times has no sports section. Papers folding left and right. LA Times, when I was there at the LA Times, we had 50 writers. Now they
Yeah.
have 5. They have 5 writers. Now you might say, okay, but now there's all these great podcasts. And that's true. But some of these podcasts suck.
Hey, wait a minute.
It's okay to talk to people without having a podcast.
Yeah.
I like this one, but I mean, I see so many. I got a podcast. What is it? Well, it's me talking to my brother about sports. And what do you guys do? Well, we're in the roofing industry.
Yeah. So
I don't
we
see
have a
how
view from
that's
above.
better.
We're up in the catbird seat, as Red Barber would say. We're up here
But,
on the roof. We can see it all.
The thing about that Washington Post thing is, my wife and I were on a boat in the BVI last year, and this incredible, most magnificent sailboat comes up, and it's 3 masts, and it's gleaming wood, and it must be the size of 3 football fields. I've never seen anything like it. And the guy says, "That's Jeff Bezos's yacht."
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I said, "That's a sailboat." He said, "Yeah, it's the biggest sailboat in the world. It cost $500 million. And he's got another boat that follows it that he doesn't want to look at because he doesn't think it's pretty. And that costs $600 million. That's
Oh,
1.1 billion on boats. He
just
paid
floating.
250 million for the Washington Post. I mean,
No,
in a sports section, what's that going to cost him for a year? $1 million? And I just think it's just so selfish and runs so contrary to what he's doing in the Washington Post, runs so contrary to democracy, because you can't have a voter who knows what he's talking about if the papers just give up. And he's just giving up because it's not making enough money. Take a hit, take a loss, write it off.
well, he can afford it, as we like to say, but that's always tough when you try to spend someone else's money. When I was a kid, I grew up in New York City, and there were still 5 or 6 newspapers every day being published. It was a great newspaper town. But I also remember you'd see papers left behind on the bus, and you'd pick up the newspaper and you'd read someone else's paper. Or when you walk by the newsstands that were every 2 or 3 blocks, you'd give a nickel or a dime to pick up a paper. And it was nothing. But now when they ask you online for money for the same stuff you used to pay for along the street, people are like, "Oh, wait, no way. Why should I pay for this?" And that once they let that cart out of the barn, where they started, some papers were free and some papers had a
Tom,
paywall.
that's what killed SI.
Yeah.
The internet came along, and they started just putting our stuff online. And a bunch of us writers went to like, if they're going to get it online, they're not going to buy us anymore. Oh, no, it'll be fine. And then they realized too late to put up a paywall. Well, we used to get it free, so screw you. And it was gone, and there was no bringing it back. I mean, it's video killed the radio star. I guess that's how the world works. And I'm okay with it. It was a great time. But when I explained to people what it was like, I mean, SI, you flew first class, you go to LA to frickin' San Francisco, you flew first class. You could spend $10,000 a year just entertaining coaches, players, other writers trying to get stuff. They would give you months to write a piece that was maybe 3,000 words long. It's just a whole. I mean, you'd walk into a locker room as an SI writer, and players would be like, "Ooh, I hope he wants to talk to me."
Yeah.
Now you walk in, and they're on their phone, and they have their own web page, and they have their own Twitter feed, and they write their own stuff for their YouTube channel. They really don't need you anymore.
No, I thought what killed SI though was when they put you in the swimsuit edition. But
That was
that's
bad.
that's it.
That was bad. By the way, they now do 6. I think they do 6 swimsuit issues a year.
Sure. It's like the Packers sweep. Why not run it if they can't stop it? And if their swimsuit edition's always going to sell.
But I will say, those are the greatest assignments of my life, covering that thing.
How
I mean,
many
they
of
didn't
those
need
did you
an
do?
article, but they always had one, and I would do it. And it was just ridiculous. I mean, you're with some of the most beautiful women on earth, and you have to go in the morning and watch them get photographed in the evening. And there was this guy we called Francois the butt duster, because he put on the body makeup, and he was a gay French guy. And then you'd always get beers with him, because you'd be like, what? First of all, he wasn't gay and he wasn't even French. He was a Frankie from Bergen Park, New Jersey.
He's a
And
myth.
we'd be like, well, what does Heidi Klum look like naked? Because he would, oh my God, he'd chew through a wall. I mean, this guy had the greatest gig in history.
Francois. Um,
That's why the
so
butt duster.
so you talk about all these places you travel and the places you live in Sedona and Italy and Southern California, but not Boulder. Do you ever think about coming back? I mean, if you're gonna have a house in every country or every few states, why not have one here?
My son lives there, so I go all the
Oh,
time.
oh,
Yeah.
good.
In fact, he lives right by the old Prairie Dog Little League fields where I played baseball, and not very remarkably well, but and so and it's so fun to see Boulder. I think Boulder's beautiful, better than it
Yeah,
ever was. You ever go up there?
yeah. Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, obviously, if you live here, you get there whenever you
Yeah.
can. But hopefully this year will.
How's the thing going with No Nine News? Is it kind of nice for you?
Yeah, it was time for me. I just, you and I are pretty much the same age, and I'd
Well, how come I look so much older?
well, because you've done more work. I just used to sit there and have Francois the butt duster's cousin put on my makeup and fix my hair, and
Yeah, dude.
get
I
get
and
ready
you
to do the news.
it's just
No, I'm enjoying this.
ridiculous.
The podcasting thing is fun for me because, like, this show, as opposed to newscasting, is I'm just talking with people I choose to talk to about stuff I find interesting, and I hope it's interesting to other people, and I hope it's fun for people to do. But I think the number one reason for me to wrap it up doing the news was if you're gonna do the news, you have to watch the news all the time. You have to be one of
Oh,
those phone addicts, and
yeah.
and, it had become something where it was psychologically debilitating to stay, connect 100% connected to the news. So, I
Because it's
decided
so depressing.
depressing and just repetitive. It's a drum beat, and it's,
Yeah.
even if yeah, there's enough depressing things in there to
Well,
make you
that's the same thing with the it was like I call it sports Groundhog Year because you do the bowl the college games in January, the Super Bowl in February, then Augusta, and it was just in the basketball, and then the Father's Day U.S. Open, and it was the same thing every year. And pretty soon I'm finding myself, oh, once again I'm writing about the superstar trying to make a comeback, or the
yeah.
kid on the end of the bench who's never gets to play, or how mad I am about this and then I realize, man, it is a drum beat. I'm ready to do something else.
So, like, when I do the weekly show After the Horn with Woody and Ron, and
Yeah.
Ron Zapolo retired before I did, and he missed it immediately. I think he, like me, went from sports to news and then missed sports as soon as he got into news. I didn't miss it as much. But then when he left, so he's doing this podcast with us now, and he finds he really did want an outlet that he would watch the news and read the news and say, I want to say something, but he had no outlet to say it. Do you find yourself with that, even though that drum beat maybe became a little bit redundant, repetitive, that there are things that happen, you go, yeah, I got to fire off about this.
Right. Well, the Washington Post will let me get mad about things I see. Um,
Yeah.
but also, I've become this guy because I did this book, Commander in Chief, in which I detailed how Donald Trump cheats at all things golf, scoring, uh, winning club championship that he never even entered. Like he's in North Korea and he wins one in Florida. He wins a 2-day tournament when he was at a state funeral the first day, and how he suddenly forgets how many he's won, and now it's up to 36. And so I've become this clearinghouse. And he'll say, "Oh, I'm proud to have won the something something oh, club championship without any strokes against the best guys in the club, the young guys." And of course, everyone turns to me, and so I put it on Twitter. Well, let me just tell you, it's not possible what he's saying he did. And I have friends there at the club, and every time he hits in the rough, they throw it out, and he owns the course. And the guy who actually won said, "Go ahead," because you don't want to get kicked out of the course. So in that way, I kind of have an outlet for something that I know really well, which is that he is not a club champion. He's never won a club championship. Every time he's been on TV playing in a celebrity tournament, he's never finished in the top half of celebrities. So, and he's hardly ever broken 90. So, uh, that's sort of something. But I find it's like I love playing piano. I like learning to speak Italian. I like, seeing the world. And if I can just stop worrying about everything going on in the world that's depressing, then I'm fine. But I would like to ask you, does how does Woody not get sick of it? Does he ever talk about that?
Well, Woody is coming up on 80 years old, and
Yeah,
he still wants to talk about it. He still has opinions about everything, and you know, I think he, like everyone who's been in and around media struggles with watching the newspaper industry expire. We've seen, people grew up. My parents grew up listening to the radio, and radio has become something other altogether. And then the newspaper was the first thing you saw every morning, and it told you how things went yesterday. And I think TV news changed so much because it used to be, if you wanted to see the newscast, you had to sit in front of the TV at 10 o'clock or at 6
right.
o'clock because it's not going to wait for you and you're not going to get it elsewhere. And so, I think Woody's enjoying doing the show with us and, still writing, of course. So
Do you
he
ever
still
see
gets
he
time
wrote
off.
one of the funniest columns I ever read. Remember when NBC tried to do a game with no announcers
Yes,
at
yeah,
LA
like
game? You
early
remember that?
80s maybe.
I think
Yeah.
it was Jets, somebody.
Dolphins, I think. Jets, Dolphins.
Jets Dolphins, right. So the next day in the paper, Woody wrote a column with no writer. And it started off, ring, 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 ring. And then somebody in the distance, where's Paige? Why doesn't he answer his goddamn phone? And then the next guy comes along, Woody owes me $20 from that bet. Where is it? He did the whole thing. That was genius.
Well, he's always been creative, been out there as well. It's been great to get to know him more, getting to sit with him every week. We certainly have a lot of conversations. We did a lengthy show on Tuesday, and as it ended, we found out Doug Moe had died, and so the
Oh
three of
my
us, Ron
gosh.
DiPolo and Woody Page and I, sat down and decided we were going to do a new show, another show. It was very emotional.
Oh, I
Doug
can't
and
wait
I,
to see it because Ron was especially tight. You and
yes,
Ron, right?
exactly. Yeah, Ron was especially tight with Doug forever, and I got to know him so well, both covering him and then later I did a radio show with him for 2 years
Oh,
every
that's right.
afternoon. And
Has
so
there ever been a more honest, wide open guy than him?
no, I can't imagine. We talked about this before about you covered him as a young man. Did you ever later, like when the Nuggets come to LA, I think you're probably at the Times by then, or
No,
yeah,
I,
ever write
I
any
haven't
more
seen
about
him in,
him?
I don't know. God, it's got to be 30 years. But he always had something hilarious to say. I
Yeah,
remember he'd say, like, they'd go to the West Finals against LA,
yeah,
and he'd
85.
start with, we got no shot.
Well,
We got
that's
no shot. You remember that? And,
well, that
and
was
we're like,
funny
you
'cause
can't say that. Well, we got no shot. We're lucky to get here. It's magic. We got zero chance. And so then you'd go talk to Pat Riley. And he goes, he's trying to play us. He's trying to play us. And I said to Pat, I don't think he's trying to play you. This guy is as honest, as truthful as anybody you'll ever meet. They don't think they got a shot. They're going to play. But I mean, that's how he was. He was
they
so real.
I was thinking a lot about Doug in the last couple of days, but one was, he really had no enemies. But I remember he really got under Pat Riley's skin with that. And I think,
Yeah.
Pat also thinks of coaching as this religious thing where you are the leader of the world and the people, you need to be perfect and everything needs to be. And Doug was, let's say, at the other end of the spectrum as far as how important coaching was. So I think Pat always kind of looked at Doug kind of funny.
Well, the typical example for Doug is all he'd say is stand on it, fellas, fellas, run, go, go. He never had to play, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't into like inspiring them. He didn't give a rat's ass about inspiring them. But Pat Riley would do things like, I think it was before game one game of the finals. I can't even remember who they were playing, and he had a big bucket of water in the middle of the locker room. And he goes, you got to want this. You got to want this like your next breath. And he stuck his head in the giant bucket of water. And he'd been practicing. And he kept his head in the water for something like 2.5 minutes. And guys were starting to freak out. And he pulls his head out, like your next goddamn breath. And they go running out. I mean, he was nothing like Mo, but he was so into it, and it was so complicated for him. And everyone had to read books, and Doug Moe would have never made a player read a book in a million years if he was the head coach.
No, he would have put someone else's head in the water probably, but just put Jim Armstrong's head in there or something like that.
And what
So,
about when he kid about Big Jane?
well, to the end, he'd always say, "Oh, she thanks me every day." He's like, "I'm the king of my castle," which is obviously, as it was her nickname, untrue.
Who who was the guy he most got on? Hanslick?
Well, it would glide. Hanslick got a lot of it. Kiki would get a lot of it. I'm trying to think. Blair and Danny would get it. One time, Elston Turner was a great player and a really good guy. And
Elston
one
Turner.
time, Elston Turner took a shot. They were cruising past the Mavs. I just remember I was sitting right next to the bench, and Elston misses a shot, short jumper, and they were letting a 20-point lead get away, and he misses the jumper. Doug calls time, and he just kills Elston. And Elston makes the mistake because it's over and the timeout's over, which Doug has not coached during the timeout. He's just yelled at Elston. The players go back on the floor except for Elston, and Elston says, "But Doug, and he was basically going to say, I got fouled or whatever.
Right.
And Doug just turns and now the game's going on, and Doug is leaning in and barking and yelling and cursing at Elston, and he's going full throat. And there's 9,800 people in McNichols Arena, and nobody's watching the game. They're all
Oh,
watching Doug,
wow.
and they can all hear Doug.
Oh,
And I'm just
jeez.
sitting there. And the thing I always remember is after the game, Doug was all good. Like, he was so wound up during the game. And then, like you said, he'd sit at that desk, he'd have a Coors Light, and then he'd go to dinner with a player or something
Yeah.
like that. It was all
Oh,
over,
I
moved
remember that
on.
so well, especially as one of my first beats. And you'd be like, "Oh crap, Mo's going to be so mad. He's not going to give us anything," and he'd be absolutely like nothing happened. Sit there with his beer. "Riley, you stiff. What kind of shirt is that? Oh, you want us to get him? Get who? The guy that made you wear that shirt." Shit like that. And he was just so fun. It was on the road. He was fun. God, just
Great
and he was a
days.
heck of a player. You forget. Wasn't he
Yeah.
a three-time ABA All-Star?
He was the runner-up in the MVP the first year he was in the league. Connie
I
Hawkins
remember
was the MVP. He was runner-up.
I remember when he jumped to the NBA, he was like, "This league sucks. These guys aren't happy. No one cares about each other. They're not friendly on the road," which is kind of true. For a while, some of those Nuggets teams, 12 guys, 12 cabs. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, that happens. So
Yeah.
I have a couple of things I wanna talk to you about, television and movies. Leatherheads, the
Yes.
film you made with George Clooney. Did you enjoy, writing and making a film? Was that something you enjoyed?
Oh, okay. Writing it was really fun. Uh, and then I kicked around Hollywood for 15 years. And the idea was it was based on this guy Johnny Blood McNally, who right before the NFL was formed would play pro on Sunday and college Saturday under a different name. And he was this cool dude with a motorcycle, and he always got the hottest girl. And so we decided to write a movie about that guy, who turned out to be played by George Clooney. And it was fast, and it was kind of what we call a Preston Sturges, pace screwball comedy. And then 15 years into it, Clooney says, "I'm doing it." And we're like, "Great, this is great. It's finally happening. I'm taking it to Italy, and I'm gonna make some changes." Like, oh, and he came back, and it was slow, and him staring into Renee Zellweger's eyes, and he completely screwed up the third act and made up a dumb thing. And but he's the nicest guy in the world, and he let me hang around set, and he was funny, and he was always pulling pranks. I remember one day, there's all these guys in leather uniforms, and we're
Right.
shooting football mitt stuff. And he gets there that day, and something had gone wrong with the cameras, but he didn't tell anybody. He goes, "All right, I need all you guys." It was like 20 guys in these leather, woolly, gross football outfits, and he made this whole big mud pit. I want every guy to roll through the mud, and because I need you to, I need you to roll through the mud. And they're all thinking, "Okay, we're doing a mud scene." So they all run through the mud. Their faces are all muddy. It's in their ears and nose. And then when they all get through it, he goes, "Hey, we're not shooting today." And they're all like, what the? He just completely screwed these guys over.
That was fun. Fun, fellas.
It was
Um,
fun.
and then you said you have a TV project that may be in the works. I know everything's iffy and
Yeah,
making movies and
Hollywood is
TV.
just breaks your heart 98% of the time. So I wrote this book called Missing Links about four
That's
guys
the
who
one that
played
you have. I wanted that to be a movie. I know Poxabog Golf Course on Long Island, right next
Ponkapoog.
to
Oh,
all the
Poxapong, yeah. This was
Poxabog
based
is a
on
real golf
Ponkapog in
course.
Boston. But yeah, so it's four
The-
guys that play the worst course in America, and they make this bet to try to get on the best course in Boston, which happens to be over this 20-foot wall that no one is allowed on. You know, it's like Augusta or Seminole. And they make this bet who can be the first guy to play it. And one guy plays it by jumping over at night and playing it. But anyway, they sell each other out. And then they realize they've completely ruined a great thing they had, and then they try to get even with this club. So anyway, it's been sold 7 times, 7 times for TV shows or movies, and now the seventh time, it's been bought by the guy who did Ted Lasso, and he did Scrubs. He does
yeah.
Shrinking, and he really loves the book. And so I wrote a TV pilot, and he seemed to like that. Okay. And so he says, okay, any minute it's going to start. We're going to start filming. And the checks come in, but it
Yeah.
never gets filmed. And that's
Well,
Hollywood in a heartbreak, in a thumbnail.
I've been reading all your stuff, but that book was my favorite. Just a
Oh,
wonderful story, and I'd love to see it made into a film. So,
well, did you read the sequel, Shanks for Nothing?
yes,
Same guys, and it wasn't quite as good, but it was fun. So when you sell the book, you sell both books. And I've had more people say that should be a movie. I'm like, could it just be a book? Is it okay that it's a funny book?
that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
I always remember people who write songs and books. Back in the early days of music videos, a lot of people didn't want their song to be made into a video because they didn't want to fix the image. They wanted you to be able to think of the song the way you think of it, as opposed to
right.
me telling you this or
You know,
that or the other.
I when I covered all those Tour de France's with Lance Armstrong, I would talk to Sheryl Crow, and she was dating him, and she said, I said, you write a song and then it gets so famous. She goes, but everybody interprets it differently. It's not yours. She
Yeah,
says, once it's out there, people think it's this. Like, for instance, Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen
yeah.
is not a patriotic song.
It's
It's
a
a song
critical song, very
protesting
critical.
against
Yeah,
US and Vietnam and military. But it just became this patriotic thing. And she says, that's the problem with selling your stuff. It becomes something else that you never intended. And that is so true. I could write a column about this X, and I'd get 100 letters. You're a right wing asshole,
yeah.
from the right, and then I'd get 100 letters from the left, and it was all people just putting their own spin on it.
Yep.
And so you're just, as Charles Barkley always says, you know, half the people are going to hate you no matter what. And if you change your stance, then the other half are going to hate you. And I really took that to heart when he told me that. And it really made a difference because you can only be yourself.
It is funny, you say things or you write things. For me, it was more of a verbal thing where you'd say
Right.
something, people would read you the way they wanted to read you. They would take you the way they wanted to. And I always talk about that now because we communicate so much, and I like it, texting and DMs and things like that. But all nuance, sarcasm, any sort of tone, you
Right.
can write a message that's read 4 different ways, from horrible to
Oh, for
great.
sure.
And you got to be I
For
guess great
sure.
writers are needed to write texts.
I always thought you were the single best ad libber I ever saw on TV, national, local, whatever. You could just do it. And it was so funny, and no one could keep up with you. And I'd throw my hands up like, oh my God, I know he didn't have that ready because something funny just happened on the spur of the moment. And I wondered, I mean, did the other anchors like that? Did people misinterpret that sometimes? Because it was so fun.
Well, I had fun doing stuff like that, but I always, usually if I worked with someone new, they might be a little scared of what I might be saying or
Ah,
doing, or double entendring or whatever I'm
right.
doing. But I always would then, if I was going to work with them for a while, tell them, I'll never bury you. I'll never
Ah,
leave you. I'm not going to make you look bad. If I have
That's true.
something dumb or sarcastic or weird to say,
Yeah.
it's on me.
Did
So
you ever
trust.
try improv comedy?
No, I
Oh, you would have killed at that.
no, it reminds me of golf. Like I love golf, but I don't think I'd want to work at golf.
Ah,
I caddied for Wiebe, Mark Wiebe, my good buddy. I went out on tour with him a
yes,
few times.
I remember that.
And when you do that, you'll know this from your caddying. But if you're on tour, you watch on TV and every 6-footer you think they're going to make, and you watch them make it and they make it and they make it. Then you go out in another group and you watch guys rolling 6-footers. When your guy has a 6-footer, all you think of is, man, that's hard. That's slippery. That's it's got a little
Right.
left to right or right to left. Yeah.
Well, this
So
was
when it
yeah, exactly. Well, Tom, this was my point in writing the Trump book. Because people say, who cares that he cheats at golf? Okay, he cheats to win club championships. He says, his courses are #1 in the world when they're not, and he doesn't pay guys and he doesn't pay architects. I played golf with Tom Doak yesterday, the architect. He says
yeah.
he won't work for Trump because he doesn't pay guys. So who cares? And I say, because golf is like bicycle shorts. It reveals a lot about a man. And what he does, what a guy does when you're caddying for him for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours at Pebble Beach, you really get to know the guy. Like
True.
I caddied for Tommy Aaron at the Masters, and he was like 3 of the biggest jerks you've ever met rolled into one. And he's like yelling. People are saying, "Go get him, Tommy," and he'll turn to me and go, "Now, do I go down to their insurance company and say, 'Go get him, Fred'?" I think they just are being supportive, but he was just a jerk. Whereas
Well, I
a guy
wouldn't.
like Ryan Smith or Lee Trevino, Nicholas, they were always still themselves and still very nice. And they knew that sometimes you get a bad break and it goes out of bounds. Sometimes it hits the tree and comes right back in the middle of the fairway. And they're going to ride with the punches and still be nice. And so
Yeah.
when a billionaire is still nice, that's pretty cool.
Well, that's you find out a lot about who's comfortable in their own skin. But
Right.
I was getting at the idea of doing comedy was like I like playing golf, and I don't
Oh,
think it would be a great profession. And
I
I
see what
like
you mean. Yeah.
comedy. I like,
Yeah.
having a good time, being funny when I can be, but
Yeah.
actually making it a job, like Sam Adams did, or someone, who's
Yes.
transitioned to becoming a comic. That's a lot of work. And to
Oh,
be,
dude.
to succeed or fail up on
Yeah.
stage that's a big difference.
I do a lot of speaking, after dinner speaking, corporate speaking, which is really, really easy because they know you're coming. It's free. They're drunk. They're gonna laugh, and
They
it's just
want to
gonna
laugh.
be an hour of laughs, right? But I tried stand up for a while, and I was opening for Sinbad, and they're like, "Who are you? Make me laugh. I don't know you. I think I'm leaving." And it was just so hard. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So not interested in doing any of that. So I want to finish. We only have a couple more minutes. I want to ask you about golf because golf seems like it's trying to be in the post live or the live 2.0 stage where the PGA Tour is seeing guys return. Boy, they lost a lot of momentum in the live era. I think the game, all the non-majors really seem to take a hit from what happened. Do you think golf is going to, or at least the PGA Tour, if you will, is going to bounce back?
Yeah, I think it absolutely will. But I think this era is going to be kind of like the World War II era when Byron Nelson won everything because everybody was
Yeah.
away at war. And he never outlived that reputation. And I'm
Mhm.
afraid that's when it's going to happen to Scotty Scheffler because he wins all these tournaments. I mean, he's a fantastic player. But there was times no Kepka, no Patrick Reed, no Rahm, no DeChambeau, and you can't discount what happened there. So yes, he's a great player. He has a chance to be Jack Nicklaus. Rory has a chance to be Gary Player. But until Liv finally folds and we get all these guys back together all the time, it's much, much watered down. For instance, Pebble Beach, there were guys that were playing badly and they didn't care.
Yeah.
There was no cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really lifted the money for the PGA Tour guys, and God knows all these guys that took that bloody Saudi money got new jets. Great. I hope you can look yourself in the mirror. I always hated it. I never thought they gave a damn about golf. They just wanted to look good to their American investors and people like Trump. And I think pretty soon they'll go, well, we've spent $6 billion. We've had $6 billion in losses. It's time to end this. And I think they will end it. I don't know when, but it was just such a money grab, and I just hated to see it. I mean, Graham McDowell going to live and saying, I'm doing it, I'm doing it for the benefit of the game of golf. Really? Dude, there's only 9 golf courses in Saudi Arabia. They don't give a shit about golf.
I'm
You
going to
know what
grow
I
the
mean?
game.
So
Yeah.
that's what you wanted, was another mansion in Sea Island.
There is that. It's funny. You always think, I wouldn't do it, and then they start adding commas to the check, and you're kind of going, well, maybe I might be able to talk
I
them into it or
wouldn't.
something.
I would not do it. I would do a lot for not very much money, but I would not take Saudi money. I mean, they chop the heads off journalists. They jail
Yeah.
protesters. They kill gay people. They suppress women. That's just, life's too short to be in bed with those guys.
So you've lived. I'll be polite here, but let's say you've carved for yourself a privileged life. You're a very good golfer. You've played golf all over the world. But if they told you you've only got a few days to play your last rounds of golf because you've played them all, where would be your go-to golf courses?
Pebble. Pebble
Pebble's
Beach is
one.
my favorite course I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think it's the most beautiful golf course in the world. It might be the most beautiful place in the world without a golf course. It's got the greatest hole, number 8, I've ever seen.
Same.
It's So what else? I love Castle Pines. I belonged there for a while, and it's just fantastic. I love Cypress Point. I mean, Augusta's fine. I wouldn't. If you said you could only pick 5, I wouldn't pick that one.
Yeah.
I love in Scotland, North Berwick. I love a place called Old Head in Ireland. If you can ever go
Ireland.
there,
Yeah.
it'll blow your mind. Yeah, so I think I've played 70 of the top 100 in the world.
Right.
And it's just such a delight to discover these Royal County Down in Northern Ireland. It's just so fun.
I
And
was listening to some
golf
of the
has gotten so
broadcasts.
much better. Ever since COVID, golf has gotten better. The
Yeah.
courses are better. There's more fun. There's better equipment. Young guys are into it. Young women are into it. And that's maybe the only good thing that came out of COVID.
Well, hopefully we'll get to play. I just was going to tell you, I was listening to the broadcast. It was early in the week on Pebble, so it's Thursday or Friday, and a couple of the guys were chatting about Cypress Point, and I loved it because the guys on the broadcast were saying, you really got to go play it. And they were talking to the viewer, like go call the pro shop and make a time over at Cypress Point. And I was like, really? You just think anybody's going to wander onto Cypress Point? Just where's the sign up sheet? Because
that
I love
happens.
the idea.
That happens at
That'd be
Castle
great.
Pines. People come up and they're wearing jeans and they got 2 bags from King Supers with beer and sandwiches. And we'll wait, you can fit us in. Okay, I'll ask Jack Vickers. He'll be down in a minute.
Rick, I hope we get to play together sometime soon. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes and getting a chance to catch up with you again today.
Where are you playing?
Today, I'm playing most of my golf up at Frost Creek, up in Eagle, Colorado.
Oh, wow. How's that? I heard that's nice.
It's terrific. A Tom Weisskopf course. And if you're in Colorado, please reach out to me and I'll see that you can play with some of the good players.
You're on. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Tommy.
Certainly fun to catch up with Rick Reilly. He's had such a career and done so many things, and it was great for him to take some time and share his thoughts with us about just about everything. And of course, Colorado's own Rick Reilly. Hopefully we'll see him back here sometime this summer. If you want to weigh in or suggest anything, you can always reach us here at the Other Tom Green Show. Just send it down here to guerrillasports.net. But that's going to wrap it up for this week. Hopefully we'll see you right back here again next week for the Other Tom Green Show.